Hello. Today I feel really shaken. I've not recorded for some days. There was a lot in the 3D world going on, so it was kind of easy to stop. And then I noticed that I was dodging. Or actually my husband noticed it. So I'm not so very well prepared, or I don't know what. I'll just give it a shot. This process is quite a bit more difficult than I thought. I'm breaking a lot of taboos by doing this. One being that we don't talk about it, especially not publicly. And it's really painful also. What is especially painful is that it's very difficult to know how much to share with my children. They don't get it. And of course they don't. I mean, they're far away from it. Growing up in a country here which didn't have war. So they don't understand what I'm doing, and yeah, it feels painful. But of course, part of my motive for doing this is the children, because as I can feel on myself, the trauma is inherited, and the more of it I can, well, I hope for some kind of, that this has, I hope that there's kind of a liberating effect, so that they don't need to carry so much. That has always been my wish. So the next number 4 on my bucket list is the lack of money, or living in constant feeling of need or lack. And first I thought, oh, that is not important. Money is not important. There, you've got it already. But I had to accept, of course, that I have issues with that. So I think I start by showing you the picture. I don't know if it glitters, but here it like glitters. So this is the mountain of gold. This is something, the golden city, something there. And this is a desert of stone. And this is how I often feel, less now, because I've been actually dealing with this topic quite a bit. But still, like the beggar with outstretched hands lying in front of the mountain of gold. And unable to get there, or to touch it, or to be part of it. And the beggar is like very see-through. It's not very material. He's yeah, it's a he. Actually, it turned out to be a he. Yeah, I don't know. And not, yeah, the sky, I think, is also important, that there's clouds, there's sky, but it doesn't touch this person. So when I grew up, there was a mantra, or there was several mantras, but there was this one mantra concerning this, and that is, there is not enough. There is not enough. There was a constant emphasis on lack. Somehow. Even though there was lots of food, and I mean, it was really we were well situated. It was not like we were extremely poor at all. And when I read this book, of course, it became quite clear that the children of the war, the generation of my parents, who have lost everything, I mean, they have actually physically lost everything. They have not lost their parents, which other children, of course, have, especially their fathers. But they lost everything material. Everything that they owned, everything, yeah, their house, their home. They were really, really hungry also after the war for a long time. My father was telling this story how he used to provide meat by running rabbits to death on fields that had been harvested. I don't know how to say that, but you have these stubble field maybe. You have these stubbles, and then I said, how can you run a rabbit to death? Because rabbits, they can run fast and a long time. And he said, yes, but when they run over stubble fields, they keep banging their head into the stubbles, and then they bleed. And they lose power. So this was, if they managed, which they didn't always do, then that was a way to provide food for the family. He also told me how once a month there was washing day, and of course no washing machine, so that my grandmother had bleeding hands. She was washing until all the skin was gone from her fingers. 6 children, you know, and diapers, and my mother, of course, she, as I told you, they were refugees without a place to stay for 2 years, just going from one camp to the next, being hungry and cold and in danger, of course. So for my parents, of course, it was really, really, I mean, they must have been deeply traumatized by this, and so money and food and house was really, really important to them, to the point where I would call it dysfunctional, but dysfunctional with the support of the society. And I mean, this series is not the meaning of it is not to criticize society or make philosophical statements, but in this case, when it's about materialism or money, yeah, I mean, we are living in a society where the highest value is money, aren't we? I mean, if you don't have money, you're not worth. If you don't make money, you're not worth. Nothing else is worth so much. At least that is what is portrayed. That is what is fed to us in the media, in the PR. It's about selling. It's about money. And I am so fortunate that I've actually met some really, really rich people. I met this guy who had a company worth, I don't know, 10 million or something. And guess what his most important thing was? To make more money. And he was incredibly unhappy. Incredibly lonely. Incredibly unhappy. Living in this super apartment, super car, biggest BMW, and a sports car, and you know, Italian designer shoes, and really lonely and really unhappy. I feel fortunate because it made it so incredibly obvious to me that money ain't doing it. It doesn't help. It helps, of course, if you are on the point of survival. But when you come to a certain level, it doesn't do it. When I gave up my life in Germany because I met my husband and I moved to Sweden with him, and since I was a TV journalist and I didn't speak Swedish, and we live far out in the country, of course I didn't have for a while not a possibility to have an income, to have a job, and I was having I actually got pregnant really fast. Then I was already 32, so I felt it was kind of also time. And then I had 2 kids within 3.5 years. And we had made the decision that the most important thing is family, is to have time for the children, to be there, to really be there, to not give them and work and make money. Just make money so it goes around. So that's the decision we made. It's been a great... Oh, I didn't turn off my phone. Sorry. I think it was the right decision, but it was also very difficult for me. So we know this crazy Indian guy that my husband knows from his hippie youth years, and he lives here too. His name is Krishna, and at that time he used to come around every now and then. He would just appear, kind of coming, walking, so one time when he was here, we still had a big teepee in the meadow, and so he went out to the teepee to meditate. So he sits there in lotus, and yeah, I didn't know him well, and I was very impressed with him. But it's not that I'm not impressed with him anymore. He's a really, really different person. Not easy. There's a lot of people who are afraid of him. I'm not afraid of him. But anyway, that was exactly a time when I had one small kid, one baby, and we had super little money. Kai didn't have a job either at the time, and I was really sick, and the winter was coming, and I never really have adapted to the winters here. I mean, I have a really hard time. Now it's winter again. It's really beautiful though. We got some snow, and it's really beautiful, but it's also cold. Anyway, so so at that time I was really, really afraid for the material situation. So I went to the TP and I asked Krishna, "May I ask you a question?" And he said, "Of course." And then I started crying and I said, "I'm so scared of the situation. I have no possibility to make money, and Kai is out of job right now, and I don't know how to deal with this." And then he looked at me and he said, "You know that I'm from India, right?" And I said, "Yeah." He says, "Okay. Do you have wood for the winter? Can you keep the house warm all winter?" And I said, "Yes." We make our own wood. We had made enough for the winter. And then he said, "Okay, do you have food for some weeks in the house?" And I said, "Well, I have rice, I have pasta, I have food." And then he said, "What's your problem?" Yeah, what is my problem? My problem is, I think that there is no wood and no food in this picture, in my inner picture. And I keep having my head down, so I can't see the sky. Yeah, it's a form of victimization, isn't it? To constantly feel you're in lack. And to live in a society where everybody's judged, or at least that's how it feels, after what they do. So, who are you is what you do. like, what's your job? What's your house? What's your car? Kind of, what's your clothes? Yeah. And then there is, I mean, this mountain of gold should have been in a garden, shouldn't it? I mean, there's so much. There's so much. At this point, when I'm talking, there's people in the streets in Paris with the yellow vests, the yellow vest movement. And I just learned that that people in France, that there's many people who are really poor. And even in Germany, more and more and more people who are really poor. And still there's so much, right? They say, oh, the economy is going so well. Yeah, for whom is the question, right? But in this week and a half that I haven't recorded and that I have been dealing with this, I came to the conclusion that this feeling of lack is not about money, it's about security. I think this is such a basic misunderstanding, and I have it in me too. I haven't yet really gotten over it inside, so I don't feel it anymore. What my parents wanted wasn't money. It's safety, security. All people want that, right? And what happens through the wars, where so many people get traumatized, is that they lose their feeling of safety. Yeah. Oh, this is really difficult. I feel super lost in this. I mean, I think we should change society totally. I don't think it's working. I don't believe it's working. Not for most people. People are getting more and more sick. Life expectancy is going down in Europe, in many countries. I don't think it's working to have this money god. But it's working for some, I guess. Because some people are getting more and more rich, right? I mean, the curve is going straight up. It's less, and they have more all the time. I don't really. They must be really I really feel compassion, because that's just not sane. Doesn't sound like fun. To have to deal with billions that you have to kind of shuffle around and keep under control, and somebody could steal, and and how many yachts can you enjoy, actually? I mean, come on. It's ridiculous. Like my father's mother, she used to say, Besitz ist Belastung. What you own is a burden, or ownership is a burden. It's true, right? I mean, you own it, you want to keep it. I'm not saying, oh, I'm really no Marxist. And that didn't work out so well, did it? But we have to find another way of dealing with what is necessary. Okay, now I did dodge into politics and philosophy or whatever. I'm sorry. It's just, it feels like a big mountain. So it's actually about safety. Everybody wants to be safe. Every child wants to be safe. And that is what is definitely taken away by wars. The sentence I used is, I think I should probably do it again. My life is full of riches, and I enjoy them in thankfulness. And my life is, of course, full of riches compared to people who live in cardboard boxes on the sidewalks of Bombay, for example, or in refugee camps, or in, yeah, you get the picture. So it's not logical to feel poor, to be afraid for too little money. Doesn't make sense. And it's not about sense, it's emotion. And it's a good way to keep people in fear, isn't it? This pushing, all this stuff you need. And what do you need? What do you really need? And there I'm rich, like we're all healthy. Nobody's taking any pills or has other health issues in my family. We're a place. We have love and respect, at least most of the time. Yeah, sorry, this is not positive. I feel so full of pain. Interesting that this topic that I thought was not so important is actually doing this. I just don't, I don't understand why people, I mean, I think it's naturally human to share. I actually think that. I think it's natural. And it makes you happy also to share. The last years, some beggars have come here. I think they're from Bulgaria, and this little town in northern Sweden got confronted with beggars for the first time. I think they didn't used to exist here, and my husband and I, although we actually really have very little money, make it's more like a ritual to give every time something. And when I'm in a good mood and stable, then I can feel rich, because if I can give, then I have, right? That's one way of feeling rich. Yes, I am not there. I'm still working on it. But the goal is to feel rich inside. To see the glass half full. Always. Or mostly, at least. Thank you for listening. Thank you.